up, y'all? It's your girl Jada, and today is my solo episode. I'm very excited to talk about this topic. So if you can see by the title already, we're talking about rebuilding your relationships with your family members now that you're an adult. And I've gone through this experience, and I want to give y'all some tips on how to really stand your ground as an adult and stand up for what you believe in, standing for your values, setting those boundaries, especially when people feel like they have to re-raise you, because they will try to test your adulthood, and you have to be able to stand up to them so that they can respect you as an adult and not treat you like a child continuously. And so just to give y'all some background story, I'm originally from Los Angeles, California, and I moved to Virginia about 3.5 years ago at this point. And when I first came out here, I had to stay with my grandmother. Now, my grandmother and I have lived on total opposite coasts of the United States for years. And so when I first came out here and I lived with her for about 3 to 4 months, she felt like she had to re-raise me. And so we were constantly battling between her trying to learn me as an adult, but approaching it as if I'm still a child. And I had to really stand up for myself in a lot of ways in order to kind of put my foot down and allow her to actually recognize that I am an adult. I can provide for myself. I am independent. I'm an independent thinker. You don't have to think for me, like all these different things. And so my experience was a little rough. We did get into it a lot. We did butt heads a lot. And it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. And the idea when I moved back to Virginia, I don't want to say move back, but when I moved to Virginia from LA, the idea was that I was going to be closer to my dad's side of the family, and I wanted them to learn who I was as an adult. So that literally was like the whole point of my move. And so talking about this topic is something that I recently had to go through, and I think I can share a lot of wisdom with y'all about it. And so the first tip that I would say is that you really do have to know your core values and know yourself. And then you have to also know your boundaries. And so I practiced this a lot in college, and that was actually a really good experience for me because I was away from home. I was able to learn who I was as an independent person outside of like my parents' values and my parents' perspectives. I built my own. And then when I was able to come here and defend those, it felt good because I had already had practice with that, doing it in different spaces and classrooms when you're like, defending an argument and things like that. So college definitely prepared me for this. And coming here to Virginia and having my grandmother try to re-raise me, the biggest thing I had to do was stand 10 toes on my boundaries, and I had to lean on myself to enforce the boundaries. I couldn't expect her to. So boundaries, my girl Cam, shout out, in a couple episodes ago, maybe a couple seasons ago at this point, she pointed out the fact that boundaries are for us to keep and not for us to expect others to keep. And so if I set a boundary with my grandmother and I say, hey, this is how I want to be treated, this is how I want to be talked to, then every time she steps outside of that boundary, I have to redirect her back to the boundary. And that's my job. I have to respect myself enough to be able to then demand the respect as an adult from other people. And my biggest issue when that came along was that my grandmother was very strong in her words. And if y'all heard in episode 1, you can tell how her opinions really are. They are strong. And so I didn't really know how to face that because I was a little softer when I first came out here as well. And I'm like trying to go between the lines of like, okay, am I disrespecting her? But then how do I stand up for myself without disrespecting her in a certain type of way? So it was hard to navigate. But what I will tell you is, this is my tip number 2, is to talk firmly, but only come from love. So if you wouldn't want somebody to speak to you in that way, don't speak to them in that way. So talk sternly, but then talk with love at the same time. And so you're going to come from a place of true love, which is not going to be cussing nobody out, which is no disrespectful words. You're not going below the belt. You're not digging. You're just simply saying, hey, respectfully, please do not treat me that way. I am an adult now, and I have formed my own. I have been on my own, and I know how to take care of myself. I thank you for trying to provide for me in this way or trying to give me that advice. But I think I got this. And just continuously doing those kind of things. So there were times where I kind of like stepped outside myself and it just caused even bigger argument. And then there were the other times, which was majority of the time, where I came from love and I just had to remind her. And so speak out of love and don't be super defensive. Defend yourself, but don't be defensive. And the way that you can do that is, again, speaking out of love and out of confidence. Because if you're ever speaking with on a defensive way, then that means that you're really coming from a place of insecurity and a place of like, being offended. You want them to read confidence off of you. And if that's happening, then you're not basically being defensive. You're not flying off the handle, because that looks like immaturity. But if you respond to them in a mature way, and you respond to them with a lot of confidence in yourself and who you are, and also with respect towards them, and you still are like putting love throughout that, they're going to absolutely respect you, and they're going to remember that. And so you have to like show them who you are, and people are going to challenge you, especially if you haven't seen them in a while. They're going to come to you, and they're used to treating you like a child. They're used to, speaking for you, or putting in their input, or just trying to do certain things, and even like kind of boss you around here and there. But if you put your foot down in a very respectful manner, and you talk with confidence, and you don't get defensive, because that shows immaturity, then you will be respected as the adult that you are. And I know that the fine line is really with like the respect thing. So just always keep that in mind. Don't talk to them the way that you wouldn't want to be talked to. If you feel like you would find offense to it, don't say it. Always say it with love and respect. And you got this. I hope that these tips helped. This was my little experience with building a relationship with your family as an adult. Again, there's a lot of ways that I could have done it a lot better with my grandmother, but it was a learning experience, and one that I can now share with y'all, so that you can do it even better when you are doing the same thing with family members who are trying to challenge your adulthood. So I hope that this really, really helps. And if y'all have any ways that y'all would say that you were able to kind of defend yourself, I would definitely leave those in the comments, because it can help out so many of the other listeners as well. And if you enjoyed this podcast, go ahead and give this a thumbs up, and you can like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend that you know may be having a hard time standing up to their parents as an adult now, and really having their parents or their other family members see them in that way. So remember that you are strong, you are mature, you got this. You should be confident in what you believe in, and say it with love, and don't be defensive. And I love y'all, and I will see y'all in the next episode. Mwah. Bye.